Garage time.
Oh yeah!
Alright, so I'll do a little video about how I'm doing my frame wrap. This is not a how to do a frame wrap, this is just how I'm doing it. Okay, so if you're a OG triple thug straight out of, you know, wherever, and have been around the block 17, 20 times, this video is probably not for you because you probably have a lot better way of doing this. This is a dude in his garage doing this for the first time, doing it as good as he can do. So what I'm doing here is I'm reinforcing the spring perch here. This is the factory spring perch. What I've done on this side is I've put a plate in. There's a recessed area underneath here that the spring sets in. So I put a plate over the top of that, welded it on here, and then I ran a plate all the way around the edge. That way I could bring it up to where I have a nice area to weld on some plate too. Now what I think I'm gonna do now is, since the body mount sets right here and the body bolts there, that doesn't need to be plated. At least I don't believe it needs to be plated. I don't see any reason for that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a filler piece that'll sit inside of this channel. That way I can weld that up, grind all that down, so at least that looks, once this is all ground down, this whole thing will look pretty smooth. It'll give it a lot better look. So the way I've been doing it is just some poster board from Dollar Tree or wherever you wanna go. Just a cheap poster board, works really well for this. A good trick is cover it up, take something that's really dirty, like in my case, my hands are always pretty dirty. And if you start rubbing it, fold it over, and you just rub in your lines. You get a little transfer of dirt. I mean, I guess you could probably use like a crayon too, if you got a bunch of crayons laying in your garage, or anything really. But yeah, you just rub it with something dirty. Make sure you stay on your freaking line. Jeez, dude. Rub it with something dirty and get that dirt to transfer over. So let me cut this out. And when you got a line to go off of, you can just cut it out. Cut it out a little bigger if you want to than your line, but usually you cut right up to your line. Especially if you're using 3/16 or a 1/4 inch plate. If you cut right up to your line, you still got plenty of room to adjust. So you can see there, I pretty much got that curve. So that's pretty well established. All right. Might be kind of hard for the camera to pick that up, but there is a little faint line on there that I can follow. I'm liking it. So now I just take this, put it on a piece of steel, cut it out. Simple as that. If you're like me, you try to save the crap that really needs to be saved, like steel. So you can just lay it on an odd spot if you're cutting a lot of little pieces. Lay it on the most odd spot that your template will fit on. That'll save you a little bit of steel. Just try to think of, where would I not use anywhere else? Now we just gotta cut it out. Just do the best you can. Try to keep it as straight as you can. It gets kind of hard to see sometimes, especially under a welding helmet, but it's really hard to see without any sort of lens on. I know they make plasma cutting or torch cutting goggles that have a really light shade on them. That's probably what I need, but I just use my welding helmet to cut it out. All right, let's get to it. Simple as that. All right, then I take it and I do something really OSHA approved and I hold it in my hand and I frickin' grind the thing, okay? If you're gonna judge me, the door is right behind you. And anybody that's ever had a chunk of steel embedded in their eyeball, they know it's a good idea to wear some sort of eye protection. So that's why I wear my again, OSHA approved Ray-Bans. Alright, it's pretty clean, still freaking hot, but pretty clean. Do a test fit, okay? Test fitter. Now, a tough part with this is gonna be the angle of the dangle here. The angle of the dangle's off. Move in. All right, see there? The angle of the dangle doesn't quite mesh. So what I'll do when I start to weld this is I'll weld it along here and then I'll go through and I'll tap it down. But I need to take off a little bit. So I need to take it off a little bit, pretty much everywhere, which is neat. A little bit inside this curve, a little bit right here. So just keep doing that, test fitting. You'll get it. You'll get it one day. One day. And this is just a little 1-inch strip here. We've been on this for about 20 minutes now. I'm liking it. Better and better each time. I'm not loving it, but I'm liking it. And that's a start. All right, so I'm gonna keep doing this for about another half an hour or so, and I'll get this piece shaped up and I'll bring you back. Got the piece made, pretty happy with the way that turned out. I'm gonna put it up at an angle back here. I'm gonna start back here, work my way forward, and tack it along here, and then tap it down and keep tacking. So let's get to it. The welder I'm using is a super overpriced snap-on welder, 220 volt. You don't want to try to do this kind of stuff with a flux core, a flux wire welder. You're just not going to get very good results. Boom, 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 boom. When you got it tacked, if you're happy with the way it fits, just go on ahead and weld her on up. You can see there's some like weird random welds. That's just to fill in some pretty decent voids that I had after grinding off the weld. These spring perches I want to look pretty nice because they kind of hang out, and you can see kind of a lot of this when you lift up the car. So I want this to look pretty nice. So I'm going a little extra than what I normally would on the rest of the frame right here to make this look nice and smooth. So I had a couple little spots where I didn't want to grind down any further, so I filled them up with some weld. And then just take a flap disc on a grinder. This is a 40 grit flap disc. Works pretty well for smoothing out welds. Takes off a lot of material pretty fast. And then you just smooth her on up. Lots and lots of grinding later, that's what you get. So it's probably about 20 minutes worth of grinding on there. I still got to do this whole side. That's how it looks when it's all said and done. A couple little voids in here that I could get real crazy with and weld up shut. The problem is when you run like just a little tack right there and you start grinding off the tack, it actually bites in around where you tack too. So it takes off material around where you tacked. So it can potentially weaken the joint if you keep doing that. So that's something I'm keeping in mind as I'm doing this. Like I said, I don't want to do it to the point that it's actually weak where I'm welding. I would rather have a strong joint than a super smooth piece, but I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm gonna stop there. And got a little touching up like back in here I could do, but when I go to put the reinforcement piece that's gonna travel up along here, I'm gonna have weld in there. So I'll be able to touch that up once I do that. Still need to clean up that, but again, it's gonna have another piece that travels down here. So next I'm gonna get these cut off and build my wishbone and move these trailing arms and build some custom trailing arms. I need to get some power balls on the way, but that's what's gonna go down next.